If Iran doesn't come to the negotiating table serious about negotiating, Iran put out a rosy picture of the discussions thus far, but I don't think that President Trump has taken that at face value. And if the Iranians are doubting whether this president is serious about launching kinetic strikes, they can just go back and rewind the tapes on the strike against the IRGC commander Soleimani, or again those strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities last year.
President Trump sending a clear signal to Iran that it would be wise to make a nuclear deal as the U.S. military presence in the Middle East continues to build. Let's bring in Chabad of Bel Air, California Rabbi Chaim Mentz, the star of Skin Decision on Netflix, board-certified plastic surgeon Dr. Sheila Nazarian, and the editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Thank you all for coming on. You had Dan Hoffman right there talking about patience. And the question is the president's patience running thin, Lisa? What do you think?
Well, it's not patience. It's tactical. And
okay.
I think the president knows exactly what he is doing. He understands that there is no unicorn deal to be had with this regime, because a good deal, a unicorn deal, would have to include nuclear weapons. It would have to include ballistic weapons. It would have to include their support of proxies. It would have to include human rights and killing of protesters, and it won't. And the regime is not even willing to come to the table and negotiate and concede about its nuclear program. So I think the president knows exactly what he's doing. This is not just a show. We're not lining up our military assets in the region for any sort of show. Yes, it is establishing deterrence. Yes, he has put every single diplomatic tool and foreign policy tool on the table, but I think all roads will lead us to the same conclusion. Here is
Ayatollah Khamenei on the U.S. military buildup in the Middle East.
They keep saying we have sent warships toward Iran. Okay, of course a warship is a dangerous device, but more dangerous than that is a weapon that can send that warship deep under the sea.
I don't know, Rabbi. It's a lot of confidence that he is displaying there. I don't really buy the confidence at this point. Do you?
Saddam Hussein spoke the exact same way. Bada bing, bada boom. It was over. He has to talk the rhetoric. He has to go and talk and say, everybody, God is on our side, etc. I am letting you know right now, this war, it will happen. There's going to be something that will happen. But I'm letting you know it's going to go quicker than you think. Why? America's going to be coming in from England. America's going to be coming in from Saudi Arabia. Israel's going to be coming in. Saudi Arabia's got to protect their assets. Everybody, he is literally standing on his last stance. How long will he be able to stand this? I'm giving you 2 weeks. All game over.
We heard from the Ayatollah. Now the Iranian president said this.
How should we make it clear that we are not pursuing and will not pursue a nuclear weapon? They can verify this in any way they choose. If they genuinely want Iran to not have a nuclear weapon, we are ready to accept whatever verification measures they require.
Sheila Nazarian, never going to build a weapon. Not exactly truth tellers coming out of that region in Iran.
Not at all. These are not trustworthy people. These are not real negotiations that they're having. They always say the same thing. Oh, we're not doing anything. Oh, we just want it for energy. And then they go in underground, they enrich their uranium, and they build towards a nuclear weapon. They have huge nuclear ambitions. You know why? They want to control that region. So if they attack, one of the proxies attacks Israel, they'll say, you know what? If you retaliate, we'll nuke you. So we cannot let these crazy mullahs that are on a caliphate quest to have nuclear weapons, to have ballistic missiles, and this is their weakest point right now. The policy of American presidents before President Trump has been to kick this can down the road for our children and children's children to deal with. The Iranian regime is at its weakest point right now. President Trump knows this. And to kick this can down the road will leave a ballistic missile stockpile in Iran, will leave a nuclear Iran for our children to deal with, and we cannot let that happen.
Wall Street Journal writes the following here. Iran is getting ready for war with the United States. Goes on to say Tehran is deploying its forces, dispersing decision-making authority, fortifying its nuclear sites, and expanding its crackdown on domestic dissent. The moves reflect its leaders' belief that the survival of the regime itself is at stake. Do they think war is coming? Do you think war is coming?
They do. And one thing that I want to remind people is that they are not suicidal. They have used their ideology to last, to sustain themselves, but they will not die for this ideology. And that is very important to remember. And I think that is why we have seen the tactic or the strategy of patience here by the Trump administration. We need missile defense systems in place. We need the proper strategy. This is not a Venezuela. This is not an in and out. This is not a slam dunk effort. The Iranian people know what it's going to take, and that's why tens of thousands of Iranians have surrendered their lives in the quest of freedom. They know what it's going to take. It's going to be a collaborative effort, and they're looking to Donald Trump to help them in that effort.
Rabbi, you talked about other countries needing to kind of protect their territory. Do you believe this will be a joint attack by the United States and Israel?
Not just Israel. Everybody wants to go. And the only one that may be staying out of this whole thing is Qatar. Qatar is in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood, but it's a whole different ballgame. What people have to understand is this is a religious ideology, a very big religious ideology. They're not going to go down simply. But I love what Lisa's saying, but seriously, there is no way that this is going to go more than 3-4 days. When America starts going after the missiles, wherever they are, we know where they are. That's the first thing. Israel's going to go straight after the anti-aircraft stuff. I got to tell you something. This is over. It literally in three days.
Do the Iranian people, Dr. Nazarian, want this? Are they ready for this?
You know, that's a great point. And, speaking to what Rabbi just said, whether it's 80% who want this regime changed, 90% who want this regime changed, 10% of 80-90 million people is a lot of people that are suicidal.
8 or 9 million people.
Yes,
yeah.
Are willing to die for this regime, even if the mullahs are not willing to die and they're going to leave to Russia and have a good life over there. We have to have a plan in place for the day after, because these crazies, these Islamist nut jobs, are not just going to disappear the day after we go in. And we have to make sure that we make Iran safe, and we have to figure out a way to control the Islamists.
And that's why I think Trump is taking his time. He's not just waiting for the assets to come in. He's trying to put together who's going to be in Iran to take over Iran. Because you cannot have a vacuum, because there's a lot of crazies there that will rise to power with the ammunitions that they have.
Rabbi, Sheila, Lisa, thank you.